Well, for more on this, we're joined now by Jerry Buttimer, Minister of State for Rural Transport. And Jerry, you're very welcome to the programme this evening. You see there, everywhere Conor McMorrow went, whatever time of day it was, within minutes you're seeing people break red lights after red lights after red lights. Lawlessness, really, on the roads around the country.
Well, the VTR we've seen indicates that we have a huge issue with driver behaviour, and in any shape or form, poor driving is unacceptable and has a consequence. And we see every day the incidents, and this month already just 4 pedestrians killed on our roads. And we all share a space, whether we're a motorist, a cyclist or a pedestrian, and there's a consequence. And I think the most important point tonight here is that government is committed to upholding road safety standards. Secondly, to employing mechanisms and technology, working with the RSA and Garda Síochána. And then there's a fundamental question that we as citizens must ask each other is, are we prepared to allow and condone the behaviour we saw in the clips tonight here? And the answer is we should not be.
Well, you say government's committed to upholding road safety standards. By the looks of that, there are no road safety standards.
Well, no, we have road safety standards. We have, for example, an increase in the use of Go Safe vans, as an example, increased from 7,500 hours to 9,000 as a commitment to the unfurling of 12 static speed camera checks around the country. There's the now average speed zones being introduced. We had 3, we now have 5. And in reference to Dublin City, we have a commitment with the National Transport Authority, with Dublin City Council, to a pilot scheme around traffic lights. And we have a huge issue,
okay,
but it's driver behaviour as well, Sarah.
Is that pilot scheme around the red light cameras that Conor McMorrow was talking about there in his report? Because that pilot scheme was run in 2015 for 6 months in Dublin City. Apparently a huge success, no challenges or anything in the courts. And then nothing for 10 years.
Well, I can't answer why that delay is there, but what I am committed to in the department with Minister Bryan and Minister Kenny and government is to ensure, working with the NTA and with Dublin City Council, that we introduce that pilot scheme and that it is effective. We say in your VTR, and if you, those of us who use the roads in Dublin, for example, it's a shared space now. We've increased active travel, so we've got motor vehicles, you've got pedestrians, you've got e-scooters, and you've got cyclists, and all of us have a shared responsibility to ensure that the road we use is, first of all, that we respect each other on the road.
I understand.
Secondly, that there's a cultural change, because let's make it quite clear, you can have all the enforcement measures, and we have had 4,750 fixed charge notices for people who broke red lights this year already, or last year rather. But the point I'm making is, if you or I or anybody of your viewers tonight, if we don't change our behaviour, then nothing happens.
And Pete Lunn makes that point as well in the report, that there is individual responsibility here. But what you're saying to me is a pilot scheme for Dublin. I mean, we saw Neil McNellis saying we need this all over the country.
Absolutely.
So when? I mean, is there any timeline? Why only a pilot scheme?
Well, I'm only with Minister O'Brien and Minister Kenny just in the department. We are committed to ensuring that we have road safety. Today we have a new Road Safety Authority chairperson appointed. We have a review of the Road Safety Authority with changing the structure to ensure that we reduce fatality, injuries on the road. This is about ensuring that we reduce accidents on our roads. It's this year that we're committed to the pilot project with a view to seeing how we can unfurl it across the country. I'm open as a minister in the department to working with everybody to ensure that we have the highest road safety standards. And if that means learning from other countries, other jurisdictions like we saw in Australia, then let's do that.
Okay, we saw also Neil McNellis talking about how people really need to be taught again how to drive, you know, at certain junctions, how to not go into yellow boxes, how to drive around roundabouts. The Labour Party today suggesting that you should resit your theory test every 10 years for your driving test. Is that something that you think you will consider?
Well, everything is in the table as part of the new government's proposal in terms of the RSA and road safety. There is about ensuring that we have, first of all, proper standards in terms of enforcement. Secondly, that we work with the Road Safety Authority to ensure that there's an education and awareness campaign, whether it's in our schools, and Minister Foley, when she was in the Department of Education, around transition year. And then thirdly, and Minister O'Brien is committed to the whole issue of penalty points and looking at how we can be an effective deterrent. Because Pete Lunn is right. If you break a traffic light, there's a consequence.
Well, the problem is there isn't a consequence.
Well,
the 60 people that Conor McMorrow saw, none of them, I assume, got consequences.
4,500 people have a fixed notice penalty for breaking red lights last year. Almost 17,000 people in terms of penalty points for speed. We have changed
He counted 60 in 8 hours. 4,500 over a year.
I'm not condoning that behaviour, Sarah. I'm as committed as everybody is to ensuring that we have the best road safety in our country. That means resourcing, it means enforcing, it means engineering, and it also means education.
Your final question about the frustration that drivers feel, 20 minutes to drive 7 kilometres, that's a failure of infrastructure, isn't it?
Well, it's a sign of a growing economy, it's a sign of an increase in population. That's why government have worked with Bus Connects to ensure we've better public transport. We've, in terms of the Lewis and Dublin, light rail and Cork and other and rural transport. But we have a road to travel, absolutely. But we saw in COVID that if you really think about how we use the car and vehicles, you can go on public transport. But the fundamental point here, we need a cultural change in how people behave on the roads. We saw it with seatbelts, we've seen it with mobile phones, we can do it now again in terms of red lights, but also in terms of how we not speed on our roads.
Minister Jerry Buttimer, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Very